Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
I can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
BVK, how's everybody doing out there? We are going to make everybody feel really good this week.
Oh, God.
We're gonna. This is just a really feel good.
Are we gonna be like ecstasy?
Yeah. We'll be. We got that crunchy herbal rave shit.
We're gonna be like the day after you've taken ecstasy.
Is that a good day?
When you have your brain has no more feel good chemicals at all.
My understanding is that's not a good day.
All the feel good chemicals are gone, and now all you have is the feel bad chemicals, and you're like, oh.
Yeah,
this kind of sucks.
The Rules of Attraction. So that's the movie. Am I correct?
Yep, we're doing Rules of Attraction.
So this is a late 90s. When did this come out again?
2002.
Okay.
But you're right about the time period. 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. Like that's this movie has that like time period all over it.
And it's definitely one where if you haven't seen it, and you go to watch it, you should just be prepared that like it's going to make you feel some things,
and it makes you feel bad, mostly, and that's why I like it. And some of it is super heavy-handed. So this is one of my favorite movies. I tell the guys, all the time that I love this movie, and I'm not sure if Brad had seen it. Had you seen it previously, Brad?
This is one that's super weird because I really wanted to see it. I just never sat down and watched it. There's been plenty of movies that I've said that about. But this one in particular, just because Bret Easton Ellis, I dig, and
right.
American Psycho, I was a big fan of. And it's just like, when you get something like this, I wanted to see it. I don't think it was like the fact that it was Dawson being the star that it pushed me away, but I just never sat down and watched it. And now watching it, there's just things I would have been going crazy for. I would have been telling everybody to watch this movie, and all my friends would have hated me for like trying to show it to them. They'd be like, "This movie's fucked up," and I'd be like, "I know, but I love it." And look at all the cool edits and stuff. I would have been going nuts.
So that's literally what happened to me. I was like, "You guys got to watch this movie! Oh my gosh, I loved it so much!" And people were like, "Holy shit, that was a downer and it's kind of dog shit." Like a lot of people don't like this movie. At the end, he gets very heavy-handed, and there's some wild shit that happens, but.
I'm assuming for you, this is my Very Bad Things, because Very Bad Things was the movie where I saw it the first time and like I was blown away. I was like, you got to see it. I was trying to show it to everybody. They're just like, Brad, why do you like this fucked up shit? I'm like, I don't know. It's great.
Well, that's kind of my thing. My wife's whole thing is like every time she's like, all right, what movie are we going to watch? And she's just like bracing herself. And I'm like, oh, we're going to watch this. It's really good. We're going to watch Children of Men. It's a feel good classic. You know what I mean? And she's just like, at the end of it, she's like, why do I watch these movies with you? Like now I feel like shit. Now I got to watch Friends for 2 hours before I go to bed. Because I feel shitty.
You definitely have. They're definitely palate cleansing, like mental palate cleansers. You have to watch over certain movie after certain.
That's true. That is true.
What are your palate cleansers? I don't even think I know.
I would say like Letterkenny. We're watching the show Taskmasters right now, which is on BBC. It's kind of like comedians doing weird tasks and they compete against each other, and it's just fucking funny, and it's just so easy to watch. It's always funny, and that's by right now that's our palate cleanser.
Do you have one, Zach, or do you? Because you don't want.
I just go straight to bed after this kind of shit.
Just like this is what I'm here. This is what I'm here for.
Sleep like a fucking baby.
He taps his arm right where it went straight into his veins. He's like,
it's between my toes though. I just take my sock off and tap that vein between my toes.
Yeah, I got to go to the Office or the League just to get some shit out of my head. And even then, on this one, it wasn't enough. So wait, Brad. So you're telling me you loved this? Like you were like this? You're all in on this? And
I appreciate it. I was. It was weird. It was like a nostalgia, reminiscent, like type thing for me. It was like I know I would have loved this as a kid. I can see flaws in it now, and I think. I mean, obviously, it's about terrible people doing terrible things pretty much the entire movie.
But this is peak college Brad, right? Like you have to be able to connect with that part of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, my college days were fun. I lived it up. In fact, a little bit later, we're going to be talking to one of my partners in crime from my college days, and we had a lot of fun. And I don't think it was to this level, but
I hope not. But
it wasn't. But
I was there for some of it. I did. That part was not. To this level.
No, it did not get this deep, but it was a lot of fun.
So a lot of what I get when I watch it, we just finished Zendaya's series Euphoria on HBO. And that series gets a lot of criticism for people saying that they're romanticizing, like doing drugs and, having sex in high school and all this stuff. And this movie plays right along with that. If you guys have seen that series, I know you guys haven't, but the listeners, if you guys have watched that series, like it has a very similar feel of walking that line of showing consequences for doing stuff that you're not supposed to do, but at the same time, like the people are beautiful and they seem to be having fun mostly. But the cool thing about this movie is that it takes that away, because you get the inner monologue from Sean the whole time where he's just kind of like not happy. He's like, people would probably think he was like living the dream, but he's not happy at all. You know what I mean?
No. Well, so and I've seen this movie twice in the last 2 years. Which is shocking to me.
Because I think I told you, like, I love this movie, and you were like, oh, I got to check that out. And then you watched it, and you're like, I didn't like that at all.
So I have the weird thing for me about this movie is if you look at the lineup, and it's like right in my wheelhouse. Like it's like the 90s like kids got together to all do like an all-star cast movie, right? So
it's like Saved by the Bell, the college years.
You got Vanderbeek, you got Jessica Biel, you've got Kate Bosworth, you got Jay Baruchel, you've got Thomas Ian Nicholas, right, from American Pies. So you've got like this huge lineup.
Fred Savage.
The Wonder Years was for most of my life my favorite. What I would have said was my favorite show.
Yep.
So like, and I remember when it came out, and I was like, okay, like this has got to be. I saw the cast. I've got to see this. But somehow I stopped short because I think I read the description and I heard somebody say this is dark. It's not what you think it is. And so I just was like, okay, maybe I don't want that. And I kind of would return to it every couple of years and be like, I don't think I want that. So finally Zach tells me to watch it. I watch it. And I will say my first reaction that time was really fairly negative in the sense that it definitely did two things. It made me feel terrible.
Yes.
And I found it very hard to understand by the end, even. Like maybe even more at the end. Like I thought it was going to do one thing, and then the end I was like, I don't know what this is. Weirdly, though, on the second watch, I think I liked it more. Okay. So that I still have like a lot of the same base complaints, but I definitely understand more. There are two things. I definitely followed and appreciated more of the like video, the film elements, right? So
the editing, the music,
the playing with time, the sort of weird reverse. They play a lot of scenes in reverse, which I liked a lot more this time and sort of focused on. And second, I really have to work super hard when I confront a movie that makes me feel really bad to decide whether or not it was doing what it was supposed to be doing, and whether or not like I think that I want to congratulate it for that, even if I might never watch it again.
Yeah.
And I think so. Like for example, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Kids.
Oh yeah,
that's
so
the ultimate.
I owned it for a long time.
So I really
on
hated
VHS.
that movie when I first watched it because I was like, I don't like any of these people. I hate the fact that it's making me feel bad. And over time, I realized like, whoa, this movie actually was really good, but it was doing the thing that it was supposed to be doing. This movie, I think on the second watch, I was like, okay, it's at least doing some of what it's supposed to be doing, right? Like it's really not letting you off the hook on a ton of different, not just the big themes, but a lot of the little themes, like without getting too, I mean, God, I know that you think we hold nothing back on this podcast, but like there were some of the scenes where like they play it like after sex or after someone goes to the bathroom, like they take you all the way through like the cleanup and like in like little subtle ways. And I was like, oh, like, okay, this is like, it's really not letting you like talk about not romanticizing something.
Dawson wipes his ass. He looks at the toilet paper, throws it in the thing, decides to flush, and then he needs to wipe some more. He continues to sit there and wipe some more. Then looks at the toilet paper, decides that it's okay, then sits there for another like 4 seconds before he stands up and puts his pants on.
Yeah, so that was the scene, one of the scenes in particular where I was like, they're really like making you just sit here with him while he takes a shit.
I mean,
and so anyway, I just thought like
the suicide scene is excruciatingly long. The way the camera starts to tilt and the music is fucking wild to me and so heavy-handed, but I still like it. Like there's a lot of stuff like when the teardrop of the snow comes down and hits his eye, and that's like the only way he could cry. You know, it's super heavy-handed and ridiculous, but I think it's done that way on purpose because you're not sure if it's reality. It's like,
well, I don't know the inner workings of the kind of semi-beef between Roger Avery and Quentin Tarantino. So, I mean, Roger Avery was Quentin Tarantino's writing partner, and so he gets credit for Pulp Fiction.
He wrote Pulp Fiction
and Reservoir Dogs, and so he kind of gets that credit. And it's like, at this point, is he just full on like, I want to try to like kind of out Tarantino, or like, or what his situation? I'm not saying that this is like a Tarantino-ish movie, but it definitely goes to extremes in certain situations where you're surprised by it. It tries to be clever in its editing, its music, and things like that. And I don't know if I don't think it gets to the Tarantino level, but at the same time, it seems like he's just like doing a movie where it's like, I want to make this like interesting, and people are going to look at me as like an auteur and like really like, I'm a special director, and I don't think he actually got to that level with this.
No, not with this for sure, and not with really anything else that he's done. I mean, Roger Avery, you know, the famous stuff with him, he gets some uncredited writing on True Romance and Reservoir Dogs, and I don't know, kind of weird shit, Pulp Fiction. But then he wrote the screenplay for this, and you know, it's based on Bret Easton Ellis, who did American Psycho, right?
So this is connected, right? This is
Sean Bateman, who is Patrick Bateman's little brother, and you don't know really anything about Sean throughout the movie because he says just wild shit the entire time. Nothing that he says is true to anybody, really.
Right.
I mean, in the beginning,
except rock and roll.
Yeah, in the beginning, he's not even telling people his name. You know what I mean? And at one point, he's like, he answers the phone, and he's like, Patrick. You know what I mean? And like almost like.
That's his hero. Like I need to. That's my boy. Like
I got almost like he was scared of him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I guess you could interpret it different ways, but yeah, I agree. I mean, he's obviously on some sort of like, who knows what these guys went through when they were kids, right? Like they're on some like strange trajectories to like violence and weird shit.
Oh yeah. Now the interesting thing is Bret Easton Ellis liked this portrayal of the novel compared to American Psycho. Like actually liked this one a lot better and thought it was more faithful to the book. So
it's interesting.
That's kind of neat that this one actually is more true to, but American Psycho is probably considered the better movie and that people like.
Yeah, no question.
It's definitely the better movie. I think they tried to do too much in this movie. I think they dial a couple of things back at the end, and it's more impactful because I feel like they tried to go too far with it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that and even on the second watch, like really bothered me on that point is they it's not even just that you're not sure what's real and what's not. You can't even keep track of which things may or may not be real. So my problem was like, I'm a little bit okay with them being like, you know, do you trust the narrator or do you trust one perspective over another? You get like a split screen at one point where, you know, you see the two guys like, you know, make out, and then, but in the other side, the guy's just like sitting there rubbing himself.
Right.
But and you're like, wait a minute.
And it makes you sit in that, him jerking it on the couch with the pillow. Like it's not like a quick cut. It's like
it focuses.
Like a slow pan.
But like that's one of probably 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 different things where I'm like, wait a minute, did that happen or didn't that happen? And it matters, right? To like what you. Not even to let you off the hook for some better feeling. It's just like to try to sort out how it's trying to make you feel. You've got to figure out which things you want to then engage as being real or not real. And for me, that was the overcomplicated part. Is like I wanted you to pick which thing you're going to really press on as the like potential, you know, fantasy, and then let me have to grapple with that without it being, maybe I'm just a fucking lazy viewer. I mean, is that what it is?
Well, what's interesting to me is I thought that the way it was building, I always thought it was building towards some type of violent climax, like as far as like some part of a love triangle, like losing their mind and doing some crazy shit. Like it just seemed like we
murdered or accidentally murdered.
Yeah, I thought it was going that direction in some way, but it never did. But I don't know. It's it's an experience. I mean, I think there's some movies that you can talk about that are just, it's an experience where like you're going to go through it and you're like, damn, that was interesting. And it's like, I mean, you might have feelings both positive and negative about it, but I kind of felt like it was an experience. Like I enjoyed the experience in the sense that it like made me think about movie making. It made me think about kind of the fucked up society. It made me think about like these some of the really rich kids at school that I went with, and I was like, oh man, is this what they were up to? Which is actually funny because obviously cocaine's a kind of the drug of choice, and
it's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's a hell of a drug. And that was not my experience in college. I mean, maybe some folks, and this might be interesting when we talk to our guest, if there were a lot more people doing cocaine that I did not know about. But I didn't see that until I went to down to a little place called Cal Poly. That's where I was hanging out with some folks and saw a lot of cocaine use. So I was like, okay.
Everybody at the party at some point has to go poop. Like the only time it's acceptable to poop at a party is you're like, oh, I got to go do a number 2. So you can explain why you've been in the bathroom for 20 minutes.
And this one apartment we went to, these guys had like mirrored tables and shit. I was like, okay, yeah, this is how they roll.
I will say it is going to be one of my regular Christmas movie rotation now. So no, I mean, it's a Christmas movie. We can't argue that. I'm telling you, there's one point early where in the background you hear the Carol of the Bells is the like a really dark version of that is playing, and I was like, first of all, that's the scariest Christmas song, and it's terrible. My kids torture me with it. And second, okay, so that's where this is like the new darkest Christmas movie anyone's ever heard of. So it's now.
I mean, it's pretty dark. It kicks you in the teeth right from the very beginning when Shannon Sossaman, who, if we can talk about her for a minute, so beautiful, so great in A Knight's Tale, I feel like. And she did this pretty soon after that. And then she has a ton of credits, but I just don't remember her in anything. She's got a very like Denise Huxtable look to her. And I think she's super good. I think she's great, especially in this.
Yeah, and I actually loved Evil Dawson. Like I really like James Vanderbeek being evil. I was like, okay, I'm in on that. But I mean, can we just? It's a movie that has suicide, rape, another rape attempt,
but like insane, like, humiliating rape where she like gets puked on.
It's terrible,
and it's like
it's
so bad,
so terrible. I mean. It's all terrible. It's terrible. So like, it's a movie that you got to be ready for it if you're going to if you're going to watch this movie. I want to warn you, right? If you haven't seen this,
trigger warning. It's intense.
Yeah. Trigger like multiple trigger warning. It is intense. There's a lot of rough stuff, and not just the emotional stuff, but like it's a lot of difficult viewing. So you've been warned, and maybe I'll warn you again later.
Yeah. So it's brutal, guys. So just watch out. Anyways, so on a happier note. The next thing we usually do here at Bev's Video Kingdom is we move on to our Drinking with the Director segment. Now, usually we are drinking with the director, sometimes. Or sometimes we're drinking with the editor or, the policeman or the prisoner or whatever it is. And today we are drinking with Brad's college buddy, which goes right along. And we're talking about like the same time period. You guys were 2002. You guys were out at party.
College.
97, 98, 99. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right in
I mean, we're right in the same wheelhouse for this. So anyways, before I kick it to Brad to introduce his college buddy, I am today drinking my BVK IPA. Me and Brad are going to chink our glasses. And Last Call Brewing, Oakdale, California.
Oh, yeah. BVK IPA is sold out, folks. But we have heard from some of our friends at Last Call that, you know what? It might show up someday in the future.
The people have been asking.
The people have spoken. They've said that the BVK IPA is a pretty damn delicious hazy IPA.
Nice job, listeners, going out. And
yes. We got to give all of you props for those that went over there and grabbed a case or so or a few 4-packs and those that were drinking it at Food Fix or up at the Murphy's Pour House, the Watering Hole. A lot of folks enjoy this beer, and hopefully we'll have a a second batch at some point. We shall see.
What's funny is that I always was like, we're going to get famous because of the podcast, but little did we know it was because of our beer.
Yep. That's the way it goes. So, they had a great celebration. 4 new beers. Go check them out. And we will obviously keep you updated the next time the BVK IPA might be available to drink.
Now, usually I would ask Nate what he's drinking right now, but he's drinking some sort of diet soda concoction.
I don't even have any grenadine. It's just a straight Pepsi out of a bottle, and I'm kind of down about it.
Yeah, he does. He looks a little sad right now.
Well, I don't know. How do we not bring a bottle of grenadine with us?
That's a great point. I don't know.
Or a bottle of whiskey or something. Like we really screwed that up for you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, dude.
All we brought was a shit ton of BVK.
Maybe you could drink beer with us.
I could.
You can't do that.
Maybe we'll eventually, after this podcast goes for a while, you'll get into beer.
I like a beer. I don't like it at 1 in the afternoon.
It is 1:40.
Yeah, you guys. Good luck.
All right, Brad. I'm going to kick it to you, brother. I'm going to kick it to you, and you can introduce your college buddy for our fun rip-roaring college movie.
Speaking of day drinking, like I know I did a lot of day drinking with this this person right here. Amanda Wheeler is our guest today. We spent 2 years at Pacific together, at University Pacific in Stockton, and we were in the same dorm. We were actually like on opposite wings. I was in like the west side of the building, and she was over on the east side. And I'm not exactly sure how we all kind of connected, but there was a core group of folks that came together in this dorm that it kind of like, so we had like a social scene with like fraternities and stuff on our campus, but we had kind of a mix of people that came from different fraternities, that came from people who weren't in fraternities, and just people who like to have a good time and really kind of enjoy life and our freedom away from parents in high school and all that stuff. And Amanda was kind of the I would say the linchpin of that. She was the one that was like in the ringleader in the middle of the action. So Amanda, go ahead and introduce yourself, and also let us know what you are sipping on right now.
Maybe I was like the bad influence.
I don't know if that's true.
I lasted 2 years at college, and then my liver had enough, and I dropped out.
That's true.
I am Amanda. It's been a very long time since I've seen my friend Brad. We had a lot of good times at UOP. Too much fun, I would say. My grades suffered, and my dad was like, I'm not sending you back for junior year. I was like, that's cool. I was on academic probation anyway. And really, like, I mean, right now I'm drinking a glass of vino. I'm a wino by trade. And
I'm a wino by trade.
It's my day job. It's actually this really gross bottle. I don't know if I should say the brand because I don't want to.
You don't want to get them any publicity.
Yeah, I don't want to give them publicity, and I also don't, like
even bad press is good press. Tell us what the shitty wine is.
It's Barefoot.
Oh, good old Barefoot.
This is like 7-Eleven. Like it's pretty gnarly.
I'm pretty sure they put that together right here in Modesto.
I think that's a Gallo. It's a Gallo.
I'm pretty positive that I work like 2 doors down from where they make that shitty wine.
Right, well, tell them not to break my kneecap.
They roll around in piles of money, so they're doing just fine.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Thanks for having me today, guys.
Thanks for coming on. Cheers.
Cheers. For this sausage fest. So
that's what we got going on.
That was the other name we thought about that as a name for the podcast, and we were like, do we go with that? I mean, that's pretty much what. We decided instead to try to steal.
Instead of making a beer, we could have made a sausage.
Well, the best thing is we're called Bev's Video Kingdom, and there's been numerous people who are like, wait, well, then who's Bev? Like, you guys don't have a girl on the pod? We're like, no, it's just the name of the video store that was in our hometown. So
I love that.
All
Mine
right.
was LZ's Magic Video.
Oh, that was okay. That's where you were getting your
there's
tapes.
always
Beautiful.
some good names.
It's very similarly whimsical, which I like.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda, we appreciate having you on. So we watched The Rules of Attraction today, and you said that you watched it this morning, and I just want to get your quick thoughts and your take on the movie.
But also, before I say that, we gave you some options, and you were like, yeah, put me on Rules of Attraction.
Yeah.
So this was a movie that you kind of selected into. So this wasn't just like we didn't force you for this on you. I want to hear what drew you in.
I volunteered as tribute.
Someone had to.
I've actually seen this movie. I saw this movie when it first came out, because, everyone wanted to see Dark Dawson. And I probably watched it a couple times after that, but I hadn't seen it in years. And I woke up this morning and I was like, oh shit, I need to, reacquaint myself.
So you were procrastinating.
Yeah. I'm a creative. That's what we do. So 5:45 in the morning, I roll over and turn it on, and it was intense for first thing. I first of all, first thing I have to say, the soundtrack, amazing.
Agreed.
Like, this soundtrack kicks ass. The movie, I also read the book, by the way, because I'm an intellectual. And this does a very good job following the book, because it's kind of that like sort of stream of consciousness. It's written that way, so I think it does a really good job. I enjoy this movie, but it's a hard watch, and I feel like I need rehab after it.
Oh.
We were talking earlier about palate cleansers.
Well, what's your palate cleanser?
So after you watch something really tough, what's something that you would put on afterwards on Netflix or whatever to make yourself feel better about yourself before you go to bed?
I have a few. I'll be impressed if you guys, I think I talked a little bit with Brad about this one, Teen Witch.
Oh,
Anyone?
Sabrina?
No. It's like an older movie, Teen Witch.
It's from 1989. It's Blake Lively's stepsister or half sister, Robin Lively, redhead.
Oh, she was in Encino Man. I'm pretty sure.
she?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought so. I thought she was the girlfriend in.
Amanda, we just say stuff and maybe it's true, maybe it's not.
I'm going to fact check that, Brad.
We've been trying to get an intern named Ziggy, but so far no one has been willing to be just called Ziggy, no matter what their name is, so that we don't have an intern yet.
I'll do it. Depends on how much you pay me, though. An intern, so it's probably free.
No,
Okay,
it's a
never
paid.
mind.
We have a paid intern thing out there.
It's a poorly paid intern.
No one will sign up for $3 an hour.
So Teen Witch was the female version of Teen Wolf. So after they made Teen Wolf, they were like, what can we do for the ladies? Even though I love Teen Wolf as well. And they did Teen Witch. And so that's my palate cleanser. Also, Can't Buy Me Love. Like,
oh, yes.
Patrick Dempsey.
Dempsey on a lawnmower? I'm in. I'm in.
I fact checked myself, not in Encino Man. Karate Kid Part 2, and she was in Wildcats, which is a classic of the mid 80s.
Nice
she was,
work,
I think, the
Ziggy.
daughter in that. So
She had a bit part in Twin Peaks, too. Very small.
gotcha. So
Those are my palate
cleansers. And now, after seeing it this time, like we were just talking a little bit about, like, do you think we're headed towards a time when it's like essentially there's going to need to be warnings before movies? Especially, I mean, if you look at like older movies where in today's society, we're definitely going to have to be more considerate about people's experiences and things like that. Because I mean, obviously through college, like, I mean, we all know people who went through some tough times and stuff. And if you watch a movie like this, I mean, obviously it could be definitely triggering. And so do you think we're moving towards a point where most movies are going to have that type of a warning before them?
I think so. I mean, I feel like a lot of shows now already have that. Like, if you're going to watch Euphoria.
We just talked about it. Totally.
Yeah. The Muppet Show, like.
Yeah, that was
the
weird.
Muppet Show has a disclaimer on Disney now. It's like, hey, we don't agree with the views because there's some questionable stuff. So I think, it's full of that.
Well, and even more, I mean, like, you know, there's kind of two, I mean, I don't want to, not to split hairs too much here, right? But like, there are going to be things that feel offensive to people, right? And there's some of that. A lot of that's the stuff you see on Disney, right? Where it's like the portrayal here is not what we agree with, and you might feel sort of offended, which, you know, is totally a legitimate position if you feel that way. But there's a whole other like victims of assault kind of thing, or people have dealt with, in this case, like suicide, you know, attempts themselves or suicide of close people, like that kind of stuff. I think I mean, it's one of those, you know, terrible things about getting older, right? Is that like you know, I remember being young and just as absolutely naive and stupid as I could have been, right? In the sense that even, you know, prior to college and even in college, you just don't know that many people that have that many diverse experiences, especially us. We came from a pretty small town. And so you know, at that point, you know, I could have imagined watching Rules of Attraction and thought it made me feel bad. It felt really horrific, but it would have completely felt like another world. Like, I wouldn't have known at the time anybody who had been through those traumas that I knew of. And so it would have been, hard for me to like have the level of empathy that I would have needed at that time, I think, to be like, yeah, I mean, you should really have a trigger warning. And now I hear that and I'm like, yeah, like if somebody had been through something like that, it would really fuck you up to have to watch that, especially not expecting it.
What's wild to me is that there's going to be people out there that think that in some way that would be a bad thing. Like I see no negative in putting a short disclaimer before a video or a movie that's just like, hey, if you don't want to experience this, like don't press play right now. Which is, I think that's fucking great. I can't think of a downside. Yeah. So woke over here, just woke as I can be.
Yeah, I guess. Although I mean, yeah.
So Amanda, we went to a small liberal arts college, which is kind of portrayed here. That's what Pacific is.
It's a small liberal arts college.
Yeah, it's a private institution.
Like the definition of one.
Yeah,
it's not a UC.
The University of the Pacific.
No.
I did not realize
it's a private school, and the strange thing, for at least for me, coming from a little small town and getting a scholarship and going over there, is like you all of a sudden are around folks that, I mean, all of a sudden you're talking to somebody and like, oh, my dad's the owner of this company or something like that, or my dad's the mayor of this town, blah, blah. And it's just like all of a sudden you're like meeting people that like are coming from a lot of different experiences, and some of them from a lot of money. And so when you get that type of environment on a small campus, especially in Stockton where there's not shit to do, it becomes like people just kind of stick on campus, but we went hard because there was really not anything else to do. We're all going to just congregate somewhere where we're going to have fun. And I always affectionately referred to it as Amanda's bar, because Amanda's dorm room essentially was almost a 24/7. You could stop by and you could have some. You're going to have a drink. You might have a smoke, both legal and illegal at the time, and you would always just have a lot of fun people hanging out most days, most hours. Is that true, Amanda? Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. I will give a disclaimer though. It was gross. My room was disgusting. My room was so gross. Like, like people could smoke cigarettes in there. We'd have drinks. And I'll never forget the end of the year, I had my windows open and I had screens, and the screen was just covered in dust and dirt. And we actually paid my friend $5 to lick it.
Oh,
and also, disclaimer, he was one of those guys that had the money, but he still did it for $5.
Wow.
So I think we definitely went hard. But you know what's funny is like, I still feel like I was very naive, because I also I was, I don't know, pretty young, innocent. Yes, I like to like drink and smoke weed and stuff, but I think there was a whole nother layer of stuff going on at college that I was not aware of.
I was mentioning that earlier because I said it wasn't until Cal Poly where I ran into some friends that were going there and hanging out, and it was like cocaine use was like abundant and apparent. Like I know there was always rumors from some of the fraternities and stuff that some of them were pretty heavy into coke, but I never saw that element of it from like our perspective where we were hanging out. So
Brad,
there was also meth, Brad. There was also meth.
Oh, and meth.
There was meth running
around. I know. Shocker, right?
Dang.
Did you guys, Brad, ever do you remember ever going to a party that was anything approaching the dress to get screwed attire that was in Rules of Attraction?
There was the typical, like there was like the bros and hoes type parties, and some of that shit was going on at some of the fraternities.
And the toga parties.
Hose.
What was like maybe the most crazy party that any of the fraternities did? Like, was there any that was just like, I mean, borderline outrageous?
It didn't have those themes, but I feel like, I think Bros and Hoes was probably the closest, but there was like Volcano Bash, where they had like a beer bong like built from the top of a volcano, going all the way down. But I don't remember a lot of scantily clad. I mean, there were no nude women.
No, definitely not.
You mean not like 14 nude women?
Yeah. Well, okay, but and I'm not going to call any particular fraternities, but I know that there was an initiation. Like some of the fraternities there was like girls that got to be kind of like a part of the fraternity, like, and they had like their little like little sisters or whatever they were called, and I know one there was this. And they would always put big up, like huge coverings around the house on this one party, because allegedly the girls that joined had to climb down a ladder out of like one of the top floors, and they had to do it topless. And I don't know if that was true or not, I know that was always rumor, but
That sounds.
It's probably true.
Yeah, that's probably true for sure. I mean, that sounds pretty tame compared to the girl that's like getting her nipples licked in the kitchen by some dude in a clown mask, just in the background of the scene. I'm like, what is happening in the background right now?
There's a lid for every pot, you know.
I'm sure that there were parties like that, but I mean, collectively between the four of us, like we went to college for. I mean, I did 6 years. Nate's done like 9. How many did you do?
I was 4. I was 4 and done.
So, dude, that's like 19 years of college.
So,
Yeah, never anything even approaching.
I never
the
went to a
experience.
party that was even close.
I mean, I was a pretty tame college guy. So like I not that I didn't go to parties and things, but like I wasn't likely to run into that.
14 naked chicks.
I definitely did not run into that.
and clown mask.
There were some like so I do remember someone to UC Santa Barbara, and I do remember that I think the like was it the cross country team or some team used to do like a naked run around
through campus.
No, around the Isla Vista, which is like the neighborhood around. And I don't think I ever actually saw it, but it was well known that happened.
In Santa Cruz, where Lisa went, where my wife went to school, they do a naked run every year.
Yeah, so there was some nudity out and about.
It's interesting.
Well,
It's definitely not like a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody looks like they should be cast as an extra.
I jumped off a bridge into in a terrible, dirty river.
You jumped into that canal?
Yeah, one time we would play we played mud football. I know with it was like co-ed mud football. Like when there's this one spot on campus where it would always flood, and we would go out there and play football. And then I don't know, like as far as like any of that craziness, it never really got to that point. But we definitely within our own little crew though, like when we were hanging out at Amanda's bar. I know, for example, my 19th birthday ended with me in the hospital.
Oh God.
But not from accidentally
I
punch.
don't remember that.
Okay, so see, this is the thing. So and this is actually funny because I went to Outback Steakhouse with my parents, which it was kind of random that's where we went. But then we came back. I came back and
Did you get a blue onion?
I believe so. I believe we did.
Mistake if you didn't.
Which is funny because that ended up being like an integral part of my future life. But anyway, so came back to your room and you guys had a little shrine. You had you had like a 20-pack of Bud Light, assorted other beers, and then like some little shot bottles of like Jaeger. There was like a tequila bottle and stuff like that. And it was between your room, the hallway, and then the bathroom across from your room. Like we had a significant amount of people partying it up, really going hard. And that night I was in the bathroom when we had just a bunch of people all drinking in the bathroom. And Nick, our friend Nick, he took a drink of that bottle, of the tequila bottle. He stole it from me. He started chugging the tequila, and I thought it was hilarious. And when I swung my arm, I punched through the window. And
you were laughing so hard you swung your arm.
I swung my arm and I punched through a window. And when I came back, everybody's looking at me. I'm like, what? And then I noticed that, blood was gushing on my wrist. And I was like, okay, like maybe I need to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. I got stitches at 3 a.m. But my birthday's on April 19th. So when I came back, by the time I got home, it was about 4 a.m. on 4/20.
Oh boy.
And there was already people at 4:20 in the morning lighting up, and I was like running around hanging out with folks, like with my stitches in my arm.
Set an alarm.
Oh yeah, no, everybody had the alarms ready for 4:20 in the morning. So everybody was wake and bake 4:20 in the morning on 4:20. And I got back from the hospital in time to kind of hang out with everybody. So it was a good time.
And everyone would have to have a mechanism to smoke with, and then you just pass it around.
So I never lived in the dorm. Did you live in the dorm, Zach?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I didn't live in the dorm. So do you think Rules of Attraction, separate from sort of the awfulness, like do you think it does a good job of capturing the feeling of like the flow of dorms? Because I visited you some, Brad, and like that was probably my most regular dorm experience. But like that is one thing that my sense of Rules of Attraction is it kind of gives you that feel, right? Even though it's a very dark feel, it doesn't do a bad job of showing dorm life.
Well, the things on people's doors, like where you could leave messages and shit like that, that's like 100%.
I've never been inside a dorm where every door didn't have some way to leave a message.
Yeah.
Even now.
Did you guys see the one message? It was like the test results are positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be careful.
You should be careful. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a dry erase story.
Yes, please.
I was over at the townhouses and I was going shot for shot with my friend with Costco tequila, like yeah, I can do this. Like, I got it. And I must have had 8 shots of tequila.
Living that Kirkland life.
That Kirkland signature, you know, like
Yep.
real classy shit. I basically got carried back to the dorm where we continued to like smoke bowls in the study lounge. And then I came back to my door and I looked and it said, Amanda, I left a present for you on your pillow. And I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning covered from head to toe in brown shit. And I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is. And I like went down to the bathroom and like the cleaning lady was like, Amanda. And I was like, Heidi, I don't know what. And I'm cleaning myself. And I go back to my room. And do you remember Carol, my roommate freshman year?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. She comes in and like, I'm like laying there and she goes, oh, I left a gourmet chocolate truffle on your pillow. I'm not kidding. It was on my pants. Like it was from my head.
Just melted everywhere.
Just rolled in it.
I had smeared it in my sleep.
That's so much better than when you were like, I had brown shit all over. I was like, oh,
You had brown shit.
It's like, who the hell was Amanda's enemy? Amanda did not have enemies. This was there
I
were
would
never.
never tell that story on a podcast.
Did you guys
That would go to the grave.
have you guys been back to campus or to where you went to college?
I have, because I work in the city where I went to school. So yeah.
And does it feel like, what's it feel like for you guys? Because I have a particular feeling about it.
I walked by and there's like, I fell asleep in those bushes right there one time. Like we snuck up onto the roof of the church over there. It's like that kind of stuff, like that. I'm just kind of reimagining.
For me, we were the first year that you could ever get a degree from that school, and they had just opened it, and it's completely different. We were living in old army barracks, and now they have like these nice buildings. And it's
CSU
like,
Monterey, right?
Yep, they have like all this cool shit now. But our buildings have, I believe, either been knocked down or just condemned. So it's not the same feel for sure.
Amanda, have you been back?
We're a pioneer.
Have you been back to Pacific since?
I haven't. I would love to. I would love to go and yeah. I mean, I wonder what it looks like. Like, is it how I remember it? I don't know.
The stadium's gone. They knocked down the stadium, so
I didn't
that's
know they
gone.
knocked it down.
Which that looks really weird just driving by when you see the stadium's gone. But other than that, like a lot of the same buildings and stuff are all. They have a whole new like basically McCaffrey Center. Like they have a whole brand new one of those. So it's like it's pretty cool. But other than that, it's not that different.
I bet it would seem small. Like, you know, when you're
hella
older,
small.
you go back and look at stuff, you're like, this is so small. Like, why did it seem so big?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to UC Santa Barbara, and it doesn't feel good to go back, and which is weird, and both because I loved college, like I really my time there was some of my favorite time of my life, and because Santa Barbara is an objectively great place, just beautiful, really cool, nice weather. But like, I can't shake the feeling that I don't like being there not as a college student. So it's like, it's almost like it's too, I don't know if I wouldn't, bittersweet isn't even quite right. It's like, it feels like discomforting for me to like be there.
Like you don't belong there almost.
Yeah, totally. Like you're irrelevant to what the space is doing. Like everyone around is like, you're like, wait a minute, like I'm supposed to be here and be a college student and be in the mix, but like it's just like it's like you see those movie sequences where where people are walking through and like no one can see them. That's the feeling I get anytime I go back is like you're invisible.
But do you get that feeling at? Do you get that feeling at other college campuses?
No, not at all.
Oh, see, that's interesting.
I don't get that at all at other college campuses.
Because you're just as out of the loop there as you are at Santa Barbara.
Exactly. and for some reason, I just can't. It's only there because it's the familiarity of the places. Like even going by my old college apartment, like I'll show my kids, or I'll show somebody that somebody, my wife, or I'll show somebody that I'm taking down there. It's very like. The idea that someone else is living in there and doing college things is like I'm not like,
because you're like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
I want to do something.
It's that.
Yes, exactly.
It's that.
It's like facing your immortality. You're like, I'm not as young as.
It is. Yeah. It's a little bit of that not as young and your mortality, and it's also a little bit of that weird like you want naturally, like you have this like nostalgia and romanticism for like times in your life or things or even like perspectives you had that you can't have anymore. And no matter what you do, you can't go back into those perspectives. And so the reminder that like it would be cool to do it, but you know, you literally like, maybe it's because like even going to the same place, and even if you were to like, pretend I'm in college right now, you know, and like you literally couldn't take away the like life experience that you have now and the responsibilities that you have and the way in which you're different that like made you so authentically a college student at that time. And so for me, that's something that's what part of what's special about it, right? Is like you're at a particular time and you see things a particular way.
So there's a picture that shows up on my Facebook memories like once a year, and it puts a gigantic smile on my face. And Amanda knows it's in her room, and there's just a big crew of us. And it's like this perfect moment in time of just a bunch of kids like experiencing like their freedom and enjoying themselves at college. And just going through and seeing everybody, and like we all kind of reminisce on it, like almost like each year that it comes out. It's such a moment in time that I look back with a lot of fondness, but at the same time, it's like, God, I still like all those people. It's like, it's so weird that we had such a short time together, but most of the people in that picture, I'm like, I hope they're doing well. Like I don't keep in touch with them necessarily, but it's like, they were all an important part of like a big step in my life. And so it's like, I just love seeing that picture. I mean, man, you know what I'm talking about.
Cry, Brad. You're going to make me cry.
Brad's tearing up over here a little bit. He's a little wispy.
I wish we could hug.
I know.
So Amanda, you said the soundtrack, but what are your other favorite parts of this movie? I mean, what are the other things you just really like about it?
So I really love this part, and it disturbs me. And it's the part with Fred Savage, where he's doing heroin and he can feel his dick. Because my very first celebrity crush was Fred Savage.
Oh yeah,
were you a Wonder Years fan too?
Oh,
I was all in on.
I was a Winnie Cooper man myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I want, every man wanted to be Fred, every woman wanted to be Winnie.
Yep.
Or Kevin Arnold, I guess.
Kevin Arnold.
And his brother Wayne, like everyone,
yeah.
like all the archetypes are there.
Yeah.
But I had a huge crush on Fred. I call him by his first name, and wrote him a love letter, sent him my school picture.
What?
Like, I think I was like 5th grade or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I like
he was
the
going to fall in
initiative.
love.
I really like that initiative.
Did you get a response?
So, I did.
Oh.
Like form.
It was like 2 postcards. One was like the cast and all their signatures on the back, and one was a headshot of Fred. And on the back it said, "May all your years be wonder years. Love, Fred."
Oh, that's awesome.
And then it's like,
you still have
it was
that.
like, P.S. Watch my new movie, Rules of Attraction. I think you'll like it.
I mean, so like for me, like, like it's almost like seeing Dawson as Tom Bateman. It's like Kevin Arnold as this like hair, doped out, like creepy dude. So like it was very upsetting, but it's also hilarious. Like, I got a chuckle.
Yeah, he is actually manically funny in that. Like it's a very strange scene.
He's hilarious and sad and all of the things all at once, which makes it so good to me.
Yeah, 100%.
And that scene isn't super heavy-handed. Like there's other stuff that I'll talk about later in my Bodybag that's like so heavy-handed that I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? But the Fred Savage thing is like pretty understated. The way that he's just like completely out of it. He doesn't overact. It's fucking great.
It seemed like this movie came out at just the like perfect point of kind of like right in the middle of kind of MTV generation. So it's kind of got that element of it. And then also being able to kind of be a little bit extreme. Like post 80s, like being able to be like a little bit more like hardcore and extreme. Like that's kind of like people are used to that by that time.
Mm-hmm.
But then also before, like where it's like now you'd be like, oh goddamn, we need to tone that down. Like I don't think that movie gets made today. So it's like a weird, like just kind of place in time where that movie fit. It came out and it didn't do great, but at the same time, it's like it represents kind of an era, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I can't help but think about the countless young people that were like, I'm going to go see this new movie with Dawson in it. You know what I mean? And they've been watching Dawson's
And that would
Creek
have
the
been
whole
me.
time.
If I had not paid close attention, I would have been going in looking for some Dawson and Joey,
Yeah, you're like, maybe Katie Holmes is Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe she's going to make a cameo. I don't know. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I bet there's some young kids that went to that movie and were just like, their minds were kind of blown. Like, what is going on? Is this what I'm looking forward to in college?
Like, I came here from Seventh Heaven. Where's Jessica Biel? You know what I mean?
Seriously, all the teen hits.
I know, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
it's like they all came
wild.
together to make a really like a movie where their alter egos were like really pieces of shit.
Which is weird because like I don't know if it's like, go for it.
Everyone's a piece of shit in this movie. Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no redemption
about anyone.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone that's. I mean, well, what about the female lead?
Shannon Sossaman.
Yeah, I mean Lauren is a flawed character, but she's
flawed.
She's just trying to be happy. She's kind of floating around trying to figure it out. She's trying to be responsible. You see her looking at the book of STDs before she goes out because she's like trying to discourage herself. She's so horny, but she doesn't want to go out and do anything that's going to give her one of these STDs. And so she's like, I got to read this book and look at these pictures before I go out. Remind myself of the consequences.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also wonder how deep she is if she wants to lose her virginity to Victor, who's like a total, you know what I mean? I'm like, he's a total fuckboy. I'm like,
Totally.
she's in love with him, and I'm like, you don't know what love is, little girl. Maybe she's just too young.
But in some ways, yeah, but that's like a forgivable like error of youth, right? Where you're like
Being naive isn't the worst.
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
she's like, she's drawn to this guy who sort of seems worldly and cool and good looking. And I don't know. I mean, she's certainly a flawed character. She's the one that I think in the movie is probably the least problematic from a like ethical standpoint.
Well, there's something to be said about when you get to college, and so it's like, okay, high school relationships are now behind me, but now it's like those first few relationships where you're meeting people from different places and doing like I think there is a lot of people that kind of like really fall in love, or at least what their idea of love is in those first few years where you're like, oh my God, this person's from someplace completely different, and I want to go ahead and like, I think this is the coolest person I've ever met. And so it's like, for her, like Victor is like, oh my God, this guy's like traveled and he's got all these things going on, and like, oh my God, this is my dream man, even though he's just like, oh, you were just like a notch on the bed type thing.
It's very realistic because, I like how it depicts how she has a completely different view of what the relationship was than he does.
So I wondered, I wanted to know, this was one of my points where I was like, he was so dismissive that he even knew her.
Yeah. He was just like, whatever.
That I wondered whether or not like it was supposed to be implying that she was literally like delusional.
Nope. I think that she really thought that
I think
maybe
she was
they were
a
dating.
notch on one night.
He left. Yep.
Yeah.
But they hadn't even slept together. That's the thing. Like to him, he doesn't care at all. He's just like, oh yeah, let's go out a couple of times or whatever. He takes off to Europe, doesn't think about her for 6 months, comes back and she shows up at his dorm room like, I'm so glad you're
I
back.
think it's
Like
very real.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like the depiction of it is brutal, and it goes both ways. It's almost less likely to be the woman, I think, than the guy knocking on a girl's door and thinking that something was going down.
It was
definitely not
quite common at our school for folks to go abroad, study abroad and stuff. And I know plenty of relationships that fizzled out while somebody went abroad for 6 months. And it's like, you're at college, like you're going to live it up, or they're living it up totally. And so like those two people are completely apart and have nothing to do with each other once they come back, or once the person comes back. So it's like that kind of shit happens in college.
There's definitely a bunch of raw stuff in there that, even though it's maybe a little more dark, there's a lot of good representation. There's a lot of accurate representations, I think, of dynamics that exist, and that was one thing that I think I liked more about it on this watch, is I could see some of that even through some of the darkness.
I mean, it hits hard when Sean Bateman takes the girl back to his room, plays a song that he wrote on the acoustic guitar, and then transitions into Counting Crows. I was like, this guy is fucking me right now.
Zach, I made the note. Zach only likes this movie because he transitions to Counting Crows.
Dude, I had Paranoid Android. OK Computer from Radiohead. It was like the when that came out. Like I had that always ready, like in the CD player. Like if anybody was coming back, like
if anybody needs making out, we
were gonna throw on some Radiohead, and that would be go time.
No guitar, Brad. No guitar.
No, that was not my forte. Both these guys I'm with, they're both guitar players, and so I'm a little jelly of them.
You're like, I play a little spoon. Like that's about it.
I'm like, if you want to play some drinking games, I got this. Like, so just real quick, one last little really good story from our days is that, and this kind of related to the movie, is the fact that you always feel like when you're in college and like you're doing things, like this is the time when I wouldn't say reality TV is starting to get, and maybe it's starting to get big, but I was involved in video production on our campus, and so I always had access to cameras, and so I was like, you know what? I think we should film one night. And I'm talking to men. I'm like, we should film one night, just one of our parties, and just see what kind of shit goes down. Like, we should put the camera up where nobody knows where it's at, and we're just going to film this party and just see how it goes down. And we did. We have like, I think it was like 2 or 3 hours of footage of this party where it was just a typical night in Amanda's bar. There was probably about 20 people that came through, and we were all just drinking, having fun, and nothing really exciting happened on the video, but it was like...
Do you still have it, Brad?
It's probably, yeah. And I have a bunch of VHS like in storage and stuff that I'm sure...
We should do a special episode where we just view that and do a commentary live. Yeah.
I should actually look for that, because that's something that I should put on like... I should put it on digital and send it to all those folks so they could kind of like have a little experience from their college days. I might have to do that.
We had to fast forward because it took like a good hour or two for people to get crunk.
Yeah, once people started getting then like, there were some people like smacking each other, playing around, and like there was some funny stuff towards the end, but it definitely took a while for it to get going. But that was we did the hidden camera party, and it never really led to anything super exciting, but it was
fun for us because we were the only ones who knew.
Yeah. It was. I think it was like,
and then we told everyone, but.
I think it was us two and one other person I think knew, but other than that, I think it was everybody else didn't know.
Yeah, great. So it was illegal. That's great.
I didn't know California filming. Yeah, I didn't know the California filming laws at that point, but
statute of limitations is passed.
Statute of limitations is definitely passed.
So Amanda, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. We appreciate you.
Yeah. It was
really fun.
I had heard for years about. I mean, I visited Brad and Grace back in the day, so we might have met in passing.
Come to Amanda's bar?
And I might have come.
Probably,
but I will say that Amanda's bar has lived in Brad's stories for the time since, and I've heard about it always with such affection. Amanda's bar many a time, and so I feel a little bit like starstruck, to be honest. Right?
Oh my god!
Brad,
can send some autographed headshots.
It'd be great. Yeah, if you could do that.
Well, I owe all my WWE fandom to Brad because he introduced me to The Rock, Mankind,
Stone Cold. That was when that was all huge. The Attitude Era of WWE.
Yep. I didn't know either until just now.
I was big on that. Yeah, but we loved. We had a share of pop culture. We had a share of like music. I remember you were always playing Air. Was like your band at that time. A lot of Air playing. It was good stuff. We had a great time.
Dave Matthews live at the Red Rocks. Like that was like. I mean,
fuck yeah, dude.
Well, you saw Dave. Did you guys would go and see Dave Matthews? Didn't you go see him a few times?
I never had.
Oh, you never did? Okay, I thought you had.
He plays at the Gorge here in Washington, and it's like every Labor Day weekend. It's supposed to be amazing, but
yeah. We're aging ourselves. Everybody knows how old we are now when we talk about Dave Matthews with such affection.
All right, hey, thanks.
Thank you for having me. I am a total cinephile, so this was super fun. And if you ever want to invite me back, I'm around.
Yes. Well, you don't say if you don't mean
it. Not fishing.
Now, was this your first podcast?
So I have a friend who we've done a couple just to fuck around.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was my first podcast, my first official.
Your first guest.
I took a picture,
Our first guest.
Well, hey, when you start your pod back up, you let us know and we'll do some collaboration, huh?
Oh, for sure.
That would be amazing. I also sub a movie trivia night, so if you ever need some hot tips or questions, I did a great Tom Hanks slam poetry round.
My Lord.
So,
See, when I heard, I saw that you were doing trivia, and we had the little Geeks Who Drink at our local brewery, and so we were doing trivia a bunch, and I was like, oh man, I wish I could go up there and do some trivia with Amanda. That'd be a hell of a time.
We kick ass for sure.
Yep.
Right.
All right, we will catch you the next time since you've volunteered yourself for another.
You're on the official. You're on the official list for sure of future guests.
Thanks,
Great.
Amanda.
All right.
All right, we're gonna do some Shag, Snag, Bodybag.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag, Snag, Bodybag.
All right, thank you, Scott, for that intro. So, Bev's Video Kingdom, we're shagging, we're snagging, we're bodybagging. Nate, what are you shagging from this movie?
So I'm going to shag Evil Dawson.
Okay.
So I mean, the only other things I've ever seen Dawson. There are a couple of other off the beaten path, off color roles, but a lot of the things I know him from Dawson's Creek and
I Don't Want Your Life.
and Varsity Blues. He's very wholesome, very sort of a little more all American, straight ahead. As kind of a psychopath who's very unhappy in this movie. I mean, I hated him, but I liked seeing it, right? And I would say, especially the second time, I realized I was like, okay, he's actually doing a really good job. I mean, the acting's really good. He's kind of he makes you quickly forget he's Dawson. So I'd say evil JVB for me.
I'm with you. It's not mine, but I think that he kills it, and he goes like pretty deep. Like he goes kind of over the top a few times, but I don't think he fully goes like the way some characters in this movie do.
All right, my shag is and I think I really would have appreciated this if I would have watched it when I was younger, but it's the clever editing, the when he's jerking it, but he's also like picturing himself making out with Dawson. Like, I mean, all those types of scenes, the rewinds, the things that are played backwards, like all that stuff, even though it's done maybe just for attention and it's just supposed to be like, oh, look at us, we're clever and cool, it still gets me. Like, I'm still like, okay, that's fucking pretty cool. I like the way they did it. And then, of course, the very end, the credits play in reverse. And so it's like, oh, wow, this is just like they're playing with this the entire time. So I really dug that. I like the way the cinematography. I like the just kind of the visuals of this movie. Really dug it. It stood out to me.
So mine is basically the same thing. I have written down Shag, music and editing, and the opening scene. I know the opening scene is absolutely brutal, and it's just insanely terrible. But I wonder if it changes the movie if that is at the end of the movie and they don't do the play with time, and they put that as the ending instead of the opening. You know what I'm saying? Because basically that's where it ends.
Yeah. No, I mean they and thankfully they don't make you watch it again.
No,
again,
exactly.
Which is
well, and Victor's little short movie too was very clever at the same time. It was just like that whole he's just talking. They're just showing little flashes and clips of like him doing all this shit.
So that was my other shag I debated. Was I loved the Victor like
this
just
is what I did.
Manic level speed through this huge thing, and it was both the filming of it and the
narration.
The narration.
Yeah.
For sure. The guy kills it, and he doesn't go on to do much else either, which is crazy. But anyway, so we're moving on. We're snagging. I'm going to snag Shannon Sossaman, who I think is just great in this, and I really like A Knight's Tale, and I like her in that too, and I think she's a very good actress. I think she's very beautiful. She's had a successful career and has done a whole bunch of stuff, but I guess nothing that I was really into except for those two movies. So I think it's interesting. I haven't seen her in literally anything since, although her IMDb is full of stuff.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I thought she did a hell of a job. Snag.
What are you snagging, Bradley?
I'm going to snag. And there's part of me that thinks that maybe this is the heart of the movie. And it's the heartbreaking short movie that is in the middle of this, which is the suicide. And if you want to take this from almost like a heartbreaking, but almost like all these people are terrible, but this girl's story within its own little movie in the middle where she's constantly pining over Sean's character, or for the character Sean, and she's looking at him at parties, and she thinks that she's in love with this guy, but she's also the one who's working. She has to work at the cafeteria. So she's not one of these rich kids. She's not necessarily in that world. She's trying to kind of be a part of that world. And then maybe it's just overwhelming, and then that she just realizes she's not ever going to be a part of that world, and that drives her to her suicide. But it's like that little kind of moment in there. It's almost like the movie's about her. The fact that these people who are just living these like weird, like it's almost like celebrities where they're living this like crazy chaotic lives. But then here's the person who's kind of the more regular person who's just kind of pining for that and knows that they're never going to like be at that level, and just says, fuck it, I'm done with this.
The movie also kind of makes you feel like a piece of shit because you don't notice her either.
Right.
Like
no,
when
that's
you
what I'm
watch
saying.
the
I
movie,
feel like that's
you're
intentional.
Yeah.
You don't notice her just like Bateman doesn't notice her. You know.
Yeah, and so it's depressing, it's terrible, it's sad, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of like the real person in this movie. She's the real, true, like real person. All these other people are kind of superficial and messes, but she's kind of the real person in this, and it's as depressing as it is, it was a very cool scene, like that the way they did it and the kind of the way it was handled.
So I'm going to snag seeing the same story from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So that's a device that's used, there's plenty of other movies that use that device. And I think it's used pretty effectively here. I think that I like it better than some of the other devices, which I like. So for example, the playing with time, I think works really well sometimes and really not as well in certain spots. The playing with the sort of like what is real and what is not, I don't think that I'll talk about that in a minute. But the playing with perspective in this movie is very good, and I think in general I like that as a device. And this is an example of, I think, a movie that needs it and uses it well. And I think probably the book obviously is where it comes from, but the movie does a nice job of bringing it from the book.
If we're gonna body bag something from this movie, I've got a large list of them. But
what did you snag?
I went first. I snagged Shannon Sossaman.
Oh, what did you shag?
The music and editing in the opening scene. We talked about it.
Man, where am I?
Were you sleeping? Or?
Where am I?
I don't know.
You're in LA, bro.
Shit, missed out on all of that. All right, body bag. I want to hear it. What you got something open?
No, so yeah, I guess I'll go first. My body bag from this is the super heavy-handed stuff at the end with the snow dropping into his eye and then dripping down his face, and like the kid at dinner, Richard or Dick. Like, I loved his scene where he's like, making advances at the Paul character, and he's like, into it, but not really into it. He's like, kind of pissed off about the Sean thing. I love that whole scene. But when he comes down to dinner and does his best Billy Madison, Adam Sandler impression for like 15 minutes, it's a long scene. And I'm like, he's going so over the top.
Yeah.
That's
true.
That's my body bag.
So my body bag I said this earlier, but I don't like that there are too many pieces of the story that I don't know what was real. And some of it may just be me. So like I commented earlier, like my interpretation of the main characters, pining for Victor and him not knowing who she was. I thought that was like supposed to tease you that maybe she was being, she had, literally never met him. But either way, right? Like there's ambiguities enough that it made it even harder for me to keep a track of a story that already had time elements and perspective elements. And so I thought like it created just enough extra moving parts. And that was the part that I thought was the least well done, that I could have done without almost any of that. Maybe just a few of the split screens where like you had to kind of, eventually it gave you a clue as to whether it was supposed to be real or not. But otherwise I thought that could have gone.
I really like the device of the split screen, actually.
I do like that part of it. And I think that's the most effective version of the I'm not sure if this is real.
I'm not sure if this is real, right? Because you get both versions and they don't even have to tell you which one's real. But you kind of decide which one, the one that's less wild, right?
And even that I would have said we could have done with maybe 2 or 3 of them and not, however many there were.
He was definitely swinging for the fences, and I think he connects sometimes, and sometimes he misses bad.
I think that's right.
I'm going to body bag, and I don't know personally if he has to deal with this like I do, but James Vanderbeek has a pretty large head.
Ugh.
He's got a forehead on him, and he's got a pretty large dome. And I feel for him because I have a big ass dome too. And actually, Zach and I were just talking earlier. He was talking about a hat, and it's like as far as like the one size fits all hat, I always say fuck you to that because one size fits all is not always the truth. And I'm assuming James Vanderbeek, when he wants to wear a hat, it's probably a little bit of a struggle finding that right size because I have a big ass dome too, and hats are always stretch the limit when I put them on.
So hats are your body bag?
I'm body bagging just the fact I'm body bagging the struggle of having a big head and having to deal with that, especially when it comes to wearing hats. That's my body bag.
Yeah, I feel bad for James Vanderbeek too.
I literally would never have thought he had a big head until you guys said that. So
You kidding?
No.
He's got a big dome, and he's
I'm just not as judgmental as
he was like pretty lean for this role, so his body seems a little more diminutive, and it makes his head look bigger for sure.
I've always thought that. From the minute I saw him on Dawson's Creek, I was like, dude, that guy's got a big ass forehead.
Maybe it's one of those
He's
things
got a
where,
strong jaw.
maybe it's one of those things where it's like because you guys have big heads, you see it. I have big sticky outy ears,
so you're always noticing ears?
You're always like, look at Will Smith's ears.
I feel you.
All right.
Will.
So, anyways, I think that's it. We shagged, we snagged, we bodybagged. Where do we go from here?
I've got stream recommendations.
It is time to stream.
So I'm going. I want to stream something a little bit of a palate cleanser.
Okay.
So I tried to think because there's a lot of college movies, a lot of college comedies, a lot of really mainstream ones. This one is a little more off the beaten path. It's called Accepted. Okay,
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's really funny and really light, but it has some fun dynamics, and it's really played heavily on sort of the college campus feel to it is pretty good, and so I say if you haven't seen Accepted, it's a comedy. It will make you feel better after you've been subjected to this. It's a little later, but around the same year. It's 2006. It's a tight little hour and a half. So if you haven't seen Accepted, go watch it. I have no idea where you can watch it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go with maybe it's the high school version of the Rules of Attraction. I'm going to go with Cruel Intentions. Cruel Intentions is basically a high school version of this. You get the wealthy rich kids, and they're involved in kind of like their private school shit, and there's drugs, there's cocaine, there's all that types of stuff. There's a lot of like people trying to fuck each other and do terrible shit to each other. Most of them are all pretty much terrible human beings in that movie as well. It is on Cinemax Go, so if you got the Cinemax channel, then you are good to go. Otherwise, you're gonna have to rent that shit.
And you're talking about the OG with Reese Witherspoon and her
Reese Witherspoon, Ryan Phillippe, and
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Selma
Blair.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about. Check that stuff. Oh wait, who's the Buffy? What's her name?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. There you go. Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Cruel Intentions. It's the high school version. To a lesser extent, it's obviously not as raw and crazy as the Rules of Attraction, but it's got that kind of same vibe.
I've mentioned mine several times, and I'm going to say Euphoria on HBO Max. It's very good, disturbing at times, just like this movie, but definitely not glorifying any of the crazy shit that these kids are supposedly doing. But these kids are in high school in that show. And then the other one is Kids that I think Nate mentioned earlier. It's just as more brutal in parts than this movie, and really really real and grittily shot and super cool. And the only way you're going to stream it is if you call me and I send you my VHS. Because
it's not
there's
available.
Not available streaming on anything.
I bet YouTube wants nothing to do with it. Like, nope, don't put that shit on don't put, what does he say? Don't put that curse on me, Ricky Bobby. And that's what YouTube's basically saying about that film. They're like, nah.
Dude. All right. What are we moving on to next?
You got any alternate endings?
Alternate endings and I have an alternate ending, but okay, so it's not even really an alternate ending. First off, I have my alternate ending song.
Okay, so at the end of this
you've
movie.
got James Van Der Beek's on the bike. Sean he's on his motorcycle. He's narrating, and it just kind of ends mid narration. He's driving through the snow. He's a little reckless. Like, does he go in and kill himself, or does he crash into something? What happens to him? But if the closing credits dropped Alice Cooper's classic "School's Out for Summer," it would just ruin the ending here. It would be terrible.
I like that, Brad, but I think I've got a better one.
You've got
What if it drops out and then all of a sudden it's just like, I don't want to wait for our lives to be over. The Dawson's Creek, freaking the Dawson's Creek theme song, dude. I think that would be perfect, and then people would be like, okay, now I feel good.
Yes, I mean, my question, real quick, to you guys, just on alternate endings, is he going to crash that night? Is he going to just crash himself into the river, or is he?
I think that's too much justice for this movie.
Those Bateman boys don't go down easy.
Nah.
Is he leaving college, or where is he going? Like,
No, he's joyriding.
He's probably just out looking for. He's going to go to Rupert's house for some reason again.
Because Rupert really wants to see him.
I also don't like the fact that he just like walks right into Rupert's place when he knows Rupert like wants to beat him up.
I know, and
then he attacks them. He attacks when he knows there's like doing? 15 people there. He's like, I got this. I've got Kevin from American Pie backing me up. Fuck yeah, I'm going to start attacking people.
That was like, so the drug dealer scenes I feel are an attempt to do Tarantino, and it comes off poorly.
Yeah. That's the element of the movie that you could cut, and I say that saying that those are the lightest and like most uplifting, the funniest.
Yeah, it was definitely the lightest. Rupert got the shout out in our best drug dealer or most memorable drug dealers podcast draft. He actually got selected, but it's kind of weird, and the fact that he attacks them, that Dawson's like, I'm gonna fuck everybody up in this place and get away with it
with an electric knife.
I mean, I don't have a good alternate ending or reshelf except, and I'm not even going to try the Till Dawn because there's no chance my dad's going to be watching this movie. So I already warned him.
You're like, you don't need to watch this.
I was
one.
like, don't watch this. You will be mad you watched it.
Yeah, your dad would not.
He might shut down the whole pod. He'd be like, fuck it, you guys aren't doing this.
He's going to listen to the pod. So hi, Dad. But you're welcome for warning you about that.
So mine is, I think you take out two scenes. I think you take out the scene where the kid is going crazy in the restaurant, or you make him just like you just like call cut and you just tell that kid, Richard or Dick or whatever, you're just like, all right, bro, what are we doing here? Is this Billy Madison 2? Like, chill the fuck out. You don't need to be getting so wild, or you just take that scene completely out. I like the moms like taking pills and drinking with each other and talking about the color of their next car that they're going to buy.
I liked his dance on the bed. That was kind of fun.
I love all of that, but at the dinner scene, he goes too wild for me, and it takes me out of it, and it makes some of the stuff later less impactful for me because it was so silly. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, we're going to go from that and then like pretty quickly transition into this like 15-minute suicide scene.
Yeah.
Where it's like these things are too far apart for me. And so I would take that scene out. And I think if you clean that up just a little bit and maybe the drug dealer stuff a little bit and less slapsticky and more gritty or like real-ish, then a lot of the other stuff fits really good, and I think that makes the movie tighter, but that's just me.
All right. Well, we got through this.
Barely.
No, we're doing great. I'm so hungry.
I will say I'm glad I watched it again, not because I would say I probably will never watch it again, but I do think I appreciated the things about it that you like, and I just can't handle the emotional trauma of watching it anymore.
This is one I had that I wanted to put the check mark next to that I've seen it, and I never did, and so I'm glad I got to check it out. And like I said, I enjoyed it in a sense, although just like I said, it's a bunch of just unredeemable people.
Yeah,
I'm glad you weren't like, son, come in and watch this movie.
Oh yeah, no, I knew this one was not gonna. This was not invite the kids in to watch this one. I knew this one was gonna have to be a separate watch. So,
all
right. Well. Hey, what are we drafting next week? Do we remember?
Oh, yeah. We've got some. We're looking at the Camden is the college in this movie.
Oh, yes. Filmed at the University of Redlands.
University of Redlands, where a close friend of ours went to that university.
College.
Several.
Actually, quite
several
a few
from our town.
That's true. So,
so we're doing most memorable colleges and universities.
Most memorable fictional colleges.
It has to be a fictional.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
I got some good ones. I'm fired up about
this. This is definitely a great category, and I'm excited about this draft because despite me not being this movie not being perfect for the genre for me, I love college movies.
Yes,
we went through this whole pod without even mentioning that Nate did not drink in college whatsoever.
That's true.
I mean, he just did heroin, but that's it.
A lot of heroin.
Just his toes were just like look like a 3-hole punch. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind ride, no reason why. Shag and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start